Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Fourth and Forever, a Roundtable Sports production. And wow, all right, the lone soldier of the original cast is staring you right in the face. As Richie is still in Costa Rica enjoying his vacation, and TD has taken a vacation of his own, but have no fear. We have our good friend Colby back, and today we have Troy, Lions representative at Roundtable Sports. We were just talking about him actually going to the draft next week. So excited to hear about it, his experience. But Troy, how's life, man? Talk to us.
Man, life's good. You know, when I got this invite, this was great because this has actually become like a routine, Dan. Like I've been, it
I
hits
see you in the
time.
chat.
Yeah, man, it hits 2 p.m. and it pops up on my X. I'm like, all right, let me hop in real quick. So, while I'm doing other stuff, I listen. Now, TD ruins it a little bit. So, like, there's part of me is like, maybe I don't want to watch it. But outside of that, it's great, man. So I'm happy to be here.
So imagine having to be next to TD and hear some of those like very delusional takes. Somebody was actually in my personal chat like earlier today, and they're like, Dan, like really think about this. Who is more delusional, Richie or TD? And to be honest with you, I didn't have an immediate answer. I was just like, you know what? Like TD plays the role very well, but I think he's playing a character. I think Richie is inherently delusional. Colby, thoughts on that, and tell us how you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, with TD, it's like, when you need him to really turn it on, you're like, dude, be serious. He's like, all right, that's my bad. Let me turn it on real quick. I do believe too, like, sometimes it's a bit of that like personality, it's a bit of that character. But with Richie, he stands ground. We'll hit that end button and he'll still be going at it. Like, try to tell me that last year Sauce Gardner had a better season than Christian Gonzalez, even though I flamed him statistically.
Yeah,
he still stood on ground even after that. So I do think that Richie is starting to believe it a little bit. But you know what? It's something about New York, man. It's not just him. I have a lot of friends in New York, especially who like sports in New York, and there's something going on in that water. We gotta get somebody down there to check that out. But for legal reasons, Dan, we are going to change the name of today's show. Right? You got Richie out, you got TD out. So instead of Fourth and Forever, today, you guys got Third and Sometimes, man. So welcome on into Third and Sometimes. I'm excited to be here. Like I said yesterday, I'm dealing with some like strep throat or something like that. So if I sound a little bit off, today's a little bit worse. So really push it through.
So did the doctor's office reschedule your appointment, or just raw dogging it?
Oh, no, dude, I went today. At like 11 in the morning. Couldn't sleep last night. But it's one of those things where they're like, yeah, you'll have your results in 48 hours. 48 damn hours, man. Come on, put me on some damn medicine right now. What are we doing?
I was about to say, man, like you like might be recovered at that point.
Yeah, what the hell is this? Like, God, you're rescheduling my appointments. Tell me it's going to take 2 days to give me medicine. What the hell's going on?
Dude, you know what? Absolutely blows my mind. Folks, if you are watching on YouTube right now, we only ask that if you're enjoying this episode, please smash that like button for us. It's the easiest way to show some love at what we do. And we see a lot of the regular faces in the live chat. Y'all make this a part of your daily routine, including Troy, who I always see in the live chat. So he was top of mind to invite to fill in for TD Finns Talk. If you are listening on Spotify and or Apple Podcasts, we also ask that if you are enjoying the show, please leave a rating and review and follow us as well. We have a jam-packed show for you today, starting off with the bombshell that I feel like we hear every single offseason. This has been 3 years now. Is Rodgers retiring? He ultimately ended up hopping onto the Pat McAfee show. And I've seen this horse and pony show, like I said, 3 years in a row, where he is saying it's not about the money. It's I would play for $10 million, and I don't even need a long extended contract. News came out that he enjoyed his conversation with Brian Dable. He just hasn't decided if he wants to play because a lot of things are going on in his personal life. But let's be honest with ourselves. I think he wanted the Minnesota Vikings, and the Minnesota Vikings obviously did not want him. And he's playing a little hardball right now. He's playing some Red Rover in the NFL community. Do we buy it? Do we buy that Aaron Rodgers is really considering retiring? Troy, talk to us.
I thought he would be forced into retirement, essentially. Like I thought that's how this was going to turn into, because I didn't think there would be a team that would be willing to sign him. And the Pittsburgh Steelers have hung around, and I don't know what they're going to do in the draft. So my assumption would be at this point they're going to have to draft somebody, and on who they end up. It's interesting because that's the team that we all kind of plug in. But depending on how this draft actually goes, they're going to be a team that's comfortable with not bringing him in, and I think that's what may end up happening. But I think ultimately what you said is kind of what this is. Like that's his leverage right now is like, yo, I'm just not going to play football. So then the teams that, he wants to go to a team with an offensive mind. He wants to go to a team that I think that he's looked at as like, they're going to put up so we can end this thing on a high note. At very least, let me get some numbers on the way out. Like we can't have the heck we had last season. So that'd be my guess is, Dan, that he's just using this as some leverage. But I think ultimately, like, I'm still on the board. If you're a team, like, I wouldn't sign Rodgers, dude. I'd take my chances on Mason Rudolph in a draft pick. I'm not signing Aaron Rodgers. That's where I'm at with it.
Dose, you're on that board and sometimes Wi-Fi.
Not signing Aaron Rodgers. You're done with it. See, it's funny because, like, for me, advanced analytics, right? As far as even the box score, like, he threw the exact same amount of touchdown passes as the MVP of the league last year, right? I think it was more so of like him just being a part of a dumpster fire of an organization. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, you know what? I think Rodgers' ego is way too big to hang up the cleats after the tragedy that he had to experience over in New York. I feel like a part of him wants to come back, but he doesn't want to see a repeat of this. Steelers make sense, right? Like, I'm surprised that he's not like, yeah, definitely, I'll sign this contract for 1 year. Why not? Yes, some questions around the offensive line, but you have DK Metcalf, you have Pickens, unless he's a draft day trade. That's still a possibility that we could discuss. I feel like his ego is too big to call it a career after the New York Jets tenure. Colby, talk to us.
Yeah, I agree, Tom. I mean, we saw that video come out just a few weeks ago where he was practicing with DK Metcalf when DK got traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's the name that he's been tied back to this whole time. Now, I never bought into the Giants, right? The Giants have signed a couple of quarterbacks, Russell Wilson. Who's the other quarterback that the Giants signed?
Jameis.
They also signed Jameis. So still rumors that they could potentially draft a quarterback too. I think even if Rodgers does play, he's not going to New York. He's definitely not going back to New York. I think it's going to be between Pittsburgh, retirement, and of course joining the Minnesota Vikings. Although I think that he wanted to join the Minnesota Vikings. Like Troy said, like Dan has said, I think that's the place that makes the most sense. Why? Because he wants to end his career on a high note. He gets an opportunity to go to an offensive-minded head coach that is arguably in the Minnesota Vikings the best place for quarterbacks to play. That is the most quarterback-friendly organization currently in football. If they can make Sam Darnold work, they could definitely make Aaron Rodgers a top 5 quarterback all-time work. So I think that's where he wants to play. You had Brett Favre come out and say that, he wants Aaron Rodgers to go to the Minnesota Vikings and retire there the way that he did. But I don't think the Minnesota Vikings want Aaron Rodgers. I don't think they want his ego. I think they want to get younger. I think they want to go to J.J. McCarthy. They used a first-round pick on him last year. So I think for Rodgers, it's down to ultimately, hey, do you want to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers or do you want to retire? So I don't think he's going to retire. Dan, like you said, I think he wants to go out on a high note. And I do think that part of it was the New York Jets, right? They fired their head coach 5 weeks into the season. Year one, he dealt with what was like a torn Achilles or torn ACL. So he was out the entire season. Sometimes those injuries take an entire year to come back from also. He basically was the offensive coordinator. He was the offense there. So at least if he goes to Pittsburgh, he has better coaching. He has Mike Tomlin who can also kind of sit him down and be like, hey, dude, I'll listen to the things you want, but you're not going to run this organization. You're not going to tell me who my offensive coordinator is. You're not going to tell me how to run the ship. You'll have a say in it, but you're not going to tell me necessarily how things are done. I think that would be a place that he can succeed, especially with some better weapons.
Man, you know what?
Did we also hear that he wanted to skip like offseason? Like he kind of wants to not deal with the whole offseason process. Like I had read some of that, and that could absolutely be part of like, yo, I'm just not signing until that stuff is past me. And like I'm cool with just stepping in somewhere because I also got to think he's going to want some control of where he goes offensively. That's just the Rodgers offense looks the same everywhere he goes. So I would think like he wants to have that kind of lineup where it's like, all right, Rodgers, this is kind of your thing. But I can also understand where he's like, yo, I don't want to go through this whole offseason process again. I kind of want to just skip that a little bit. Think about the whole Christian Watson situation. This dude comes in and they just don't give him the football. It's like, what's going on? He's a rookie, drops pass, don't give him the ball. So I feel like there's that kind of thing too, where it's like coming together with a whole new team, all of this that I have to be a part of. He's not with that, Dan. Like he's at a point in his life where he's like, I don't want to do all that. I just want to play football. Right. So
no, not at all. Like he's pulling a Rob Gronkowski. Y'all remember that one off season where he said like during COVID, like when like the teams wanted to see videos of them working out, and he said that like he would just change his clothes like 50 times on one day and just like do like a run, and he would just submit those and then come on in. I mean, listen, he's 41 years old, man. And like once you get to 40, like I could imagine, yeah, dude, screw that practice. You know what I mean? Like,
I
just do
think he
some
needs to be
yoga.
there for training camp, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're going to a
Yeah.
new team, like if he was going back to the Jets, okay. If he was still on the Green Bay Packers, okay. But if you're starting square one with a new team, year one in this new system with players and a system that you got to, build continuity, you got to build chemistry. I think he does have to be there. Now, does he have to be there every practice during the offseason? No. I don't think he has to be there during OTAs. If he doesn't want to be there during mini camp, okay. But I do think at least for the start of training camp, he does need to be there for every single practice.
But Colby,
I feel like,
this. Oh, go ahead, man.
I feel like you have to. So I feel like you have to. What were you about to say, Troy?
I'm thinking about it like this. This is a terrible way to think about it. I'm sorry, Rodgers, for doing this, but like you kind of string the Steelers along a little bit because if you want to skip this whole like offseason situation, who's a team that's desperate? That's like, yo, we think that he's going to sign here, so we might not just not draft a quarterback. Or when we do get one, we don't actually look at him as a starter. But all of a sudden, it's like, yo, they don't have another choice. So it's like I can choose when I want to come in because I'm the only option that you have. So I can kind of like leak it out there. Like, look, man, me and DK, we get along, bro. This is going to work out. But at the same time, this is going to be on my timetable. And I think this is kind of the best way to play that, where it's like, yo, I just let them kind of know that I'm interested, but also not tell them that I'm interested right now to get something done. I'll kind of keep them at arm's length, but knowing that when I want to step in, it's time to step in, I'll do that. So it could allow them to skip all of these things that everybody wants them to be a part of, but it's like, I'll choose when I want to step in. That's kind of the vibe that I could get here from Rodgers. That seems like something that could happen.
It's interesting you say that too, because we've heard about this entire Rodgers situation that he's going to give an answer around the draft time because that's what teams are asking him. They said, hey, look, free agency leading up to the draft, if you want to take your time, you don't want to sign anywhere just yet, you can do that. But when it comes, right before the draft, we need an answer because if you're not going to sign with us or you're going to choose to retire, we do need to figure out who our starting quarterback is going to be. And you have a team like the Steelers who they don't have a damn quarterback. They got Mason Rudolph right now. Like they need to upgrade. So
don't sleep on Mason.
Hey, I'm sleeping on Mason, man. I saw Mason
don't
for the
sleep
Tennessee
on Rudolph, man.
I'm
listen, hey, you're talking about a playoff caliber QB.
Christmas. He's not driving Santa's sleigh. This dude's playing a whole football game for a franchise that is still trying to contend. So, but the way that I see it, right, is, if he wants to wait till after the draft and say, I'm the best quarterback left on the market, there'll be some teams who will wait around for him. But I think the amount of teams that are going to be interested are going to shrink because if a team goes out there and they trade up and they get Shador, one of these teams makes this crazy move for Cam Ward, or they get Jackson Dart, or they get Jalen Milroe, and they feel like that can be a guy that can start for them year one, and they don't need that bridge quarterback, then the amount of teams that Aaron Rodgers could potentially go to is now going to shrink. And the fact that he's going on the Pat McAfee show right before the draft, I think is a very strategic move. I think that's for a reason.
So I'll tell you what, man. Listen, there has been some drama within one significant locker room, but nobody cares about this team. So it's not really at the national spotlight. However, turns out, I'm sure a lot of us have remembered that Derek Carr has a shoulder injury, right? And it's likely that he is going to miss a lot of time this season. It sounds like that this is all BS, and he could play. And what he's trying to do is show, hey, I am significantly unhappy in New Orleans. I want out. And if I do not get out, then guess what? You just restructured all that money for nothing. I'm going to be sitting on the bench, and maybe I'll just go out ahead and grab that surgery. It sounds like he's trying to leverage this in a way out. And let me tell you what, he is picking a battle with the wrong beast here. Kellen Moore has just entered the building, and we're talking about a team that has been in probably one of the most gruesome cap implications we have seen for, I would say, the majority of Troy's life. Like, Troy is in his early 20s right now. I could probably tell you that the Saints have been in a negative cap implication since he was born. On Troy's birthday, it was probably the first year where we've seen this. I'm messing around on Spot Track right now, okay? And would be a giant financial mismanagement if they were to actually trade Derek Carr. They would be paying another team close to $60 million for Derek Carr to play for them and not for them, right? And even if they waited until after June 1st, dead cap would be $19 million this year and $59 million the following year. I've whipped out handy dandy grok on X to explain to me exactly how much a team that would be interested in Derek Carr would have to pay said contract. But Derek Carr is screwed, right? Like, first off, what team wants him? And second off, is he doing the right thing? Colby.
Yeah, I can understand why Derek Carr wouldn't want to be in New Orleans, especially at this point in his career. He probably wants to be with a team that's not rebuilding. He probably wants to be with a team that at least has a chance at making the postseason. And the Saints are in year one of a rebuild. This is not a retool. This is a rebuild. Let's keep in mind, too, that the New Orleans Saints have been last place when it comes to cap over the last few years. The last few years, they've been in like -40, -50 million dollars. So that roster is absolutely terrible. It's going to take them, a few more years to get out of cap hell. It's going to take them a few years to really start building up this roster. And by then, Derek Carr isn't going to be the quarterback. He's going to be retired. So I think that's why he wants out. He understands that given their situation, given their roster, given their cap implications, that he's just not going to have an opportunity to succeed. And he also probably doesn't want his legacy to be killed. I mean, whatever legacy I guess he really has, like he's done all that much in his career, but, he doesn't want to go down, looking like a backup quarterback for the remainder of his career when he's at least been a respected quarterback during his time with the Raiders. But like you said, Dan, he really doesn't have any leverage. You're getting older. You've had a bit of, injury problems as of late. Your contract issue is major. So if you're trying to leverage yourself out right now, New Orleans can't even trade you. But second, if teams see you as this diva who is faking an injury, why would they want you on their team? Why would they want you as a starting quarterback? Why would they want you as a backup quarterback? I think at this point, he's kind of cementing his fate in the league to where nobody's going to want him. And you just think he'd be a little bit smarter, right? If you want out, simply say you want out. Demand a trade. Demand a release. Don't say, hey, I have an injury all of a sudden, because at some point, teams are going to call your bluff and be like, all right, you're injured? Show us you're injured, right? Go run a 40 for us. If you break your ankle, our bad. We'll pay for your surgery. We'll give you a 2 times your contract for the next 10 years. But yeah, I think Derek Carr is making his own bet here.
It's funny because I actually ended up putting up the complications of everything. If, for example, somebody wanted to trade for him, if a team wanted to trade for him, they would owe Carr $40 million in cash in 2025. $1.2 million base salary, and then a $38 million restructure bonus. And that's, of course, considering that the New Orleans Saints wouldn't take on even more dead cap or even more of the contract, which is not likely, because you would think that Kellen Moore is trying to change things in New Orleans right now. Like, he's trying to be like, okay, like, we've been in this mismanaged front office for way too long. Ever since Sean Payton ended up leaving, we have to fix this. We absolutely have to fix this. The $10 million roster bonus and $30 million salary guaranteed are effectively covered by the restructure, but reducing the immediate cash outlay by locking the obligation. And the team would inherit a $20.4 million cap hit in 2025 immediately. In 2026, they could cut him because nothing is guaranteed. Carr has a no trade clause, so he could be, like, I suppose, choosy of where he wants to go. It's not looking good for Derek Carr. He's stuck. I have a feeling they're going to go with Shedeur Sanders. I don't know. Troy, thoughts on this? Derek Carr, he's stuck in New Orleans, isn't he?
Man, so the only thing I can think is, one, I think the Saints do want him. I think that's why the restructure gets done, at least to the point it's like, yo, we're cool with this guy. But to what you just brought up with him, Dan, I mean, I don't know how many other teams want him, but within his contract, like, he's like locked in for 2 years, it feels like, right? It seems like he's locked in next year with all the void money, especially that they set back, but it's only through 2026. So he may be looking at it as like, all right, they kind of want me here as like this bridge guy, and the next guy's going to step in and kind of take over through this whole process. It could get messy through this process. So could he be trying to play, not like Kirk Cousins did this, but the Kirk Cousins situation is statistically he was coming off a great season. And then obviously he had the injury, and he's still getting this massive deal just with somebody else that was trying to go into that process. I wonder if for Derek Carr, if he's like, yo, if I just don't play this year, my stats aren't that bad over the last couple of seasons. Like, teams are going to overlook that in a year when they're like, all right, he's back. He's healthy, whatever it was. He's going to be good to go. And then they're going to kind of have to forcefully just move on. Like, regardless, like they've already restructured me. They want to keep me here. Maybe I don't want to be here. So if I'm not healthy, they're going to have to find an option this year. It's going to force them to find an option, knowing that they can't trade me. So they're going to find an option. They're going to try somebody else. And then after this season, they're just going to move on because they'll already have that guy in the building. That's the only thing I could be thinking that he's trying to actually play into here. But I'm with you, Colby. I would just think hey, let's not do this deal. Like I'm not going to agree to a restructure because like you didn't have to agree to the restructure. It's not like they force you to restructure, right? So it seems very strange. I don't know. Maybe second, guessing. He's like, wait a minute. What am I doing? I don't want to be a Saint. He's like, this is a bad decision. But he's only 34, 35 next year, huh?
It's funny too, because you know what? Like, I very often forget that he's still in the NFL. I often forget. And maybe it has to do with the market, or maybe it has to go with a lot, but like, so even like back in his like later years in Las Vegas really didn't ultimately end up making a lot of sense, right? Like last year he played 10 games, had a bit over 2,000 yards. He had 10 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. So like he's not bad.
No.
He's just 15 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Excuse me. He's efficient, but he doesn't have that killer instinct. You know what I mean? He's not that kind of guy that's going to, I don't know.
He played well last year before getting injured. And I said this yesterday, Dan, is that when he's on the field, like he's a good quarterback, right? He had an overall grade of 85.6 this past season, which ranked 11th out of 75 qualifying quarterbacks, and then an 86.7 passing grade, which ranked 7th out of 75 qualifying quarterbacks. And that was on 300 dropbacks before he got injured. So that was 279 attempts. He had 15 passing touchdowns, 2,145 yards, and 5 interceptions. So he's still playing at a high level. But again, availability is the best ability. And how much is that going to drop the interest from teams league-wide, especially when they're seeing that, hey, you're having these injury problems. We need to get younger. We can get a quarterback on a 4 to 5 year deal. If we take him in the first round on a quarterback-friendly deal, that would make more sense for us.
Well, I'll tell you what. Like maybe what's adding fuel to the fire is also due to the fact that the Saints are allegedly all in on Dart. Jackson Dart, they're all in on him. All right. They love him. A ton of homework on the Ole Miss QB Jackson. I don't know, bro. Watch the tape, Dart. That's a callback from the and from the Senior Bowl right there. But so here's the deal, right? Because I feel like depending on who you ask, like we have seen Jackson Dart going as high as the 9, like right to the Saints. We've heard a couple of people say that Dart is going to go before Shedeur Sanders. We've seen a lot of people say that he's going to be there at the beginning of the second. Dare I say, some people are saying at the end of the second. Troy does a lot of homework on these NFL draft prospects. Thoughts on Jackson Dart, my friend? Do you think that someone's going to take a swing on him in the first, or will he ultimately end up being the second round guy that a lot of people are suggesting that he is? Talk to us.
I mean, I believe the Saints have a high second round pick. I could be wrong, but I would think immediately hearing that, it would make some sense that they would try to jump into the back of the first round. Jump in the back of the first round, grab Dart, kind of get out from there. That would make some sense to me, I think, from a pick spot. But I will say, like, the value of Dart, obviously, you know, there's going to be a whole bunch of mixed opinions on Shedeur, but we've always had guys that's like, oh, he's got a lot of the traits, and those guys get drafted, even if it's not going to work out. I'm not saying, like, Dart is outstanding there. He's not like when Anthony Richardson was coming out, but he's got some of those, like, magical plays that you can kind of fall in love with. Like, even just today, this morning before we got on here, I was watching, I can't remember who I was watching him against, but, you know, he rolls out and he throws like 50 yards down the field. He's off balance, puts it over a defender, lands it on a tight end. He has some of those plays, and he can really throw the football. So Ole Miss has always been weird with their style offensively. I would be shocked if he went top 10. I'd personally be really surprised on that. Maybe the Saints are just desperate now. And it's like, well, you got to do something. That's back to the point. Like, they have to find somebody now, so maybe they are. But I would think about them more, especially if they have a second-round pick, which I think they do pretty high. I would think about them as trying to jump back into the back end of the first round.
Now, you're big board, like real big board, right? Because, like, we're seeing all these crazy – like takes now that we're getting closer and closer to the draft. Like we're seeing Tyler Shucked, like being like, oh, don't be surprised if he goes in the first, right? Like we're seeing like we're seeing Will Howard on the John Gruden show, right? And like, hey man, he's a dog. He's gonna be a Josh Allen, I promise you. What's your true big board? And like, don't even think about hype, but like 3 years down the road, we're looking at this quarterback class. Who are the 4 best guys?
4.
Yeah, I mean, as
in order.
4.
Okay.
Who?
I was going to say, I don't think this is a good quarterback group just in general.
No, not at all.
I think it's good. I think all these guys could miss. I think it's very possible that everybody's.
Oh, you think every single one of them could miss?
I think it's absolutely on the table that like the highest you get is a backup here.
Like 2022 Dose?
Maybe not that far, because 2022 like legitimately didn't have a guy that you could make a case for the first round. Like Malik the guy was undersized playing at Liberty. That's not going to be a first round pick. But Kenny went first round, whatever. He could throw some good level 2 throws. I think this year Cam Ward's going to go 1. I personally like Shedeur Sanders better. I would lean Shedeur Sanders number 1. Then I would throw Cam Ward into that mix. Once you get beyond that, I think it's kind of messy. I do like Jackson Dart because of the talent that I feel like is there. So Jackson Dart kind of falls in pretty comfortably for me at number 3. But I would then take Tyler Shuck. Now, I feel like the issue is with Tyler Shuck is the easy things feel a little bit messy for him. But again, if we're going back to the talent, look, we've seen old guys drafted before. It was a while ago, but the Browns took a guy. I think he was like 27 kind of years old, somewhere in that range. They took him relatively high. Can't think of his name right now. Brandon Weeden. I think it was Brandon Weeden. We've seen these guys go if you got the traits. It's not like he had special traits either, but in such a messy draft class with everybody's trying to figure out what can we take a swing on, you get to day 2. Are you drafting a guy like Hal McCord, who's on the smaller side, or are you drafting a Tyler Shuck? He's like, oh, man, he's pretty big. He's played a lot of football, but he's had a lot of injuries. We just got to get him on the field. Everybody's playing a 40 now. So I throw Shuck in at 4. And by the way, real quick, Curtis Rourke still slides in that top 5 for me. If it was Carson Beck, Colby, you know who'd be at number 1. Okay, we just throw that out for people.
Carson Beck, man, was
you're a
the number 1 guy.
He was.
And
you're a Beck believer.
2 weeks later, he didn't come out of the draft. By the way, 2 weeks after we made that video, it was
surprisingly enough, and so I don't think you know this about me, but I am actually a Georgia Bulldogs fan, and Beck
love him.
It's made me want to pull my hair out quite a bit this season. So, but we will go from there. Colby, thoughts on Dart? Is he truly a first-round talent, or if a team selects him in the first, would that be considered a reach?
Yeah, shout out to Jackson Dart, friend of the podcast. So, of course, we think he is a first-round pick. Worth the first overall pick, if you ask me. Now, real talk, I know this is like Richie's guy. Like Richie goes to bed stroking like a picture frame of Jackson Dart, man. Like, you ever seen that Wolverine meme where he's just in bed?
I thought you were going somewhere else with that.
Hey, yo, that's for fourth and forever. This is third and sometimes, man. We don't do that.
Yeah.
But you ever see that Wolverine meme where he's like stroking, just like
yeah.
That's Richie with Jackson Dart, man. I'm not as high on Jackson Dart. Like, looking from an outside perspective, from a team that doesn't need a quarterback, trying to like not be biased, Jackson Dart is the coolest quarterback in this class. He has the best style. He has the best aura. I think he has the most confidence out of all quarterbacks in this class, which is very important. But I also have some questions about his maturity level transitioning to the NFL. Is he going to be able to take an entire team on his back? Is he going to be able to take this seriously enough to be able to turn around a franchise that he's going to go to? If you're going to the Saints, if you're going to the Jets, like, these are teams that you really have to switch around that entire franchise. You got to become the face of that franchise. Is that something that he's ready for, to put the team on his back? I'm just not so sure. I could see this selection of Jackson Dart being another Zach Wilson, being another Will Levis. And, Jackson Dart, I think he's the best quarterback against the blitz in this class. I think he's the best quarterback thrown outside the numbers in this class. He's gotten better each and every single year at the collegiate level. I mean, even his pass rate has gotten better every single year. 2022 was 94.1. 2023, it was 110.2. And this past season, it was 122.3. I also do wonder, how is he going to transition to the NFL? I mean, the competition level at Ole Miss is going to be very, very different as he transitions to the NFL. I think Jackson Dart is going to be the type of quarterback to where you definitely do not want him starting week 1. I think there's a beautiful blueprint on quarterbacks that have slowly been transitioned to the league, whether they sat for a month, whether they sat for half the season, whether they sat for the entire season, or whether they sat for multiple years like we saw with Jordan Love. I wouldn't throw him out into the mix just yet. And I think the reason we're talking about Jackson Dart going as high as we are is because, like Dose said, this is not a good quarterback class, but there's a lot of quarterback needy teams. You need a quarterback to succeed in today's NFL. It is the most valuable position in sports. If you do not have a quarterback, you are not succeeding in the league. If you hit on the quarterback, that can excel really your team past its limitations, right? Your margin for error immediately starts to widen. So I think that's why we're talking about him going in the first. But if you look at last year's draft class, for instance, if Jackson Dart went in last year's draft class, we would not even be discussing him, even potentially going in the first round. We're only discussing him going in the first round now because of how bad this draft class is at the position.
Man, you know what? It's funny you say that. And it's funny that Troy said that he doesn't like this quarterback class, because it sounds like neither do the New York Giants. All right. And neither do the Cleveland Browns. Both have been rumored to be selecting either Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. One of those two is going to go top 3, not going to be a quarterback. So I kind of want to take this into a different conversation right now. I think a lot of the sentiment around why some of these QBs are not going to fall within like the first top 3 picks is everybody is waiting for the quarterback class next year, right? And like I could think of a couple of names like Drew Aller out of Penn State, like who I think maybe somebody has their eyes on and they're kind of hoping that he'll fall to them next year. Still a lot of question marks around if Arch Manning is going to play his senior year in Texas or whether or not that he is going to go straight into the NFL. I'm convinced he's going in next year's draft. By the way, I do not think that he is going to risk an injury at all. I think he's going to win the Heisman, and I think he's going to be the first overall pick next year. But is next year's QB class that much like far and beyond better than this one? Because like they're talking about it like this is about to be the second coming of the 2023 or so the 2018, for example. Troy, from what you've seen, what do you think?
I mean, I don't know that it's going to get there because every year it's this, right? I mean, last year we could have looked at it and said, man, there's going to be some dudes coming out next year. And then Shedeur Sanders ends up being, oh, maybe he's the best quarterback. And Cam Ward came from, I mean, literally nowhere, essentially. I mean, there's a 5-year player. Incarnate Word is where everything started. I mean, it was transferring left and right. I do think one guy you didn't hit on is Garrett Nussmeier from LSU. I think he may end up being the top quarterback in next year's class. I think he feels like there's Shedeur with athleticism that could end up going much higher. He's a guy that I would circle in that mix. So I do think, I mean, you brought up Penn State's quarterback, like athletically, that dude's he's going to be better than I think anybody coming out in this class, especially for the build. It just, there's a lot of things that need to be put together there. Carson Beck. So if I had to guess, I would say it's going to be better than this season.
He slips in Carson Beck.
Carson Beck's going to be great. He's going to be great. Let's just lay it out there. I mean, if the
I'm
Bills
not going to come out next year either.
Patriots, you know what I mean? Next year, whole new year. Could be the guy. Well, you better come out next year. It's going to be a problem. Yeah, I think it could be better. I mean, I would just guess that it's going to be better just based on what this year looks like.
Okay. And Colby, what about you, man? Is next year's class going to be as hyped as we're hyping it up to be?
I mean, it's definitely going to be better than this year, right? I mean, so that's why if I'm a team, I'm looking at the quarterback class this year, unless you're getting like one of those top guys, unless you're getting like Shedeur, unless you're getting Cam Ward. I even think Jalen Milroe is going to be a dog. He just needs time to kind of sit back and develop for a little bit of time. Unless you're getting one of those guys, I'm not expecting anybody else to be my franchise quarterback. I'm not putting faith that any of these guys can be my franchise quarterback. That's why I'm waiting until next year. I think next year's quarterback class has the potential to be one of the better ones we've seen in recent years, up there with 2018, up there with 2023. Maybe not as good, but definitely a close second. But it's definitely a little bit too early to talk about, right? Because you know, the 2025 season for college football hasn't even started yet, right? And a lot of times there's players that go into their final season as first-round projections, but then they fall off so bad that they end up being sixth-round projections. I remember Kayshon Boutte from LSU, and the Patriots drafted him in the sixth round. He was a projected first-round guy going into that final season. Plays so bad, has a terrible combine, falls all the way to the sixth because football, the NFL, the league, sports in general is what have you done for me lately? They don't care about what you once did. They care about what have you done lately. You look at a lot of players, you know, even Tyler Warren, for example, wasn't really talked about as a first round pick, but had a really, really good year at Penn State this past season, burst onto the scene, had an elite year. Again, what have you done for me lately? And now he's the number one tight end. Now he's a guy everyone's talking about going in the first round. So I do think it is a little bit early. What guys are actually going to transfer, what guys are actually going to come out and go to the draft versus what guys are going to ultimately stay at the collegiate level. And then, of course, how do they perform in this final season at the collegiate level to affect their draft stock?
One name, Colby. I'm just interested. I would never be able to bring up this name on any other show, but I'm just looking for next year. Watch Texas A&M's quarterback. Dan's watching the SEC.
Wow, Texas A&M.
Texas A&M's quarterback, Marcel Reed, man. I can't help when I'm watching him play. I'm just like, all right, people are like, yo, he's going to have to take a lot of steps. A lot needs to be happening here. But he reminds me of a couple years ago when we had the other Texas A&M quarterback. He's now in the UFL, so maybe this isn't a great comparison. But, man, he slipped my mind too. But you know who I'm talking about? He went to Minnesota first.
I've seen him play. I know who you're talking about.
What did you say, Dan?
It was Kellen Mond.
Kellen Mond. He reminds me of Kellen Mond, right? And that's that he's got a little more athleticism. He's so decisive, man. He's better athlete. That's just a guy I'm keeping my eye on.
Now, listen, a cardinal sin is helmet scouting, but you know what? Like Texas A&M QBs have been cursed, is what I have been saying. You know what I mean?
Dan, you want a hot take?
Into the NFL.
You want a hot take?
Go ahead.
So I'm gonna tell you a name in this year's draft class, and I feel like now it makes sense just because we're talking about quarterbacks. I'm going to keep this brief, but I think one of the better quarterbacks to come out of this draft class is a name that nobody's talking about. It's not Cam Ward. It's not Shedeur, not Jalen Milroe, not Jackson Dart, I'm not saying he's a first round pick or anything like that, but Will Howard out of Ohio State. I think Will Howard is going to be one of the better quarterbacks to come out of this draft class that nobody sees coming.
Damn, man.
Like that, Troy?
I don't hate it. I liked Will Howard a lot at Kansas State. So I almost feel like this last year was a little bit of a letdown, but it was more so towards the end of the season. He had the injury.
That's good value.
He seemed like he was doing something against Michigan. He couldn't throw the football at all in that game. But outside of that, he had a good season. They all have good seasons there, but it's what he did at Kansas State that would intrigue me. Yeah. I'm not mad at that.
My God.
Couple QB sneaks, huh?
Some QB sneaks, man. Damn, you know what, dude? It's interesting, but sticking on the Giants here for a second as well. Like, we need to look at their roster, and we need to look at some of their free agency moves already. Big one was Russell Wilson, backup Jameis Winston. Sounds like they're going to be going with an Abdul Carter and or a Travis Hunter, whoever falls to them at that point. Dable and the GM are obviously in a somewhat less than ideal position where if they can't get it done or show some sign of improvement, I think both of them are going to be canned, and it's going to be a fresh start, fresh slate for whoever walks into the Giants organization. Them missing out on a QB in the top 3 and them running with Russell Wilson as their starter this year. What exactly are your expectations for this team? Same exact story, but are they a draft away from being somewhat serviceable, right? Because you have the Philadelphia Eagles in that division, have the rising Washington Commanders as well. And as much as we love to shit on the Dallas Cowboys, we know that they typically put things together during the regular season. Different story is in the playoffs. Is Brian Dable and Schoen screwed this year in 2025, or will they surprise us? Troy.
Every time the Giants come up, I always feel like I'm like giving like sympathy or something. Like I feel bad when I think about the Giants.
Yeah, me too.
I actually enjoyed the Hard Knocks episodes. They were fun, but it was like, oh, this is rough. I think the Giants will be competitive this year. I don't think they're going to be terrible, and I think there's a path for them not being terrible this season. I don't think it's going to be a playoff team, but I do think Russell Wilson's actually going to fit well there. And I think when you look at what they have defensively, say they walk away with Abdul Carter because Hunter goes too, that defensive front is going to be great on paper. It's like, all right, they have that figured out. I've always liked the way their linebackers have played. And in the back end, they invested. Javon Holland this offseason, Paulson Adebo. They invested in it, had a lot of young guys haven't connected yet. But it feels like, all right, a lot of what we're doing is defense. Let's get that right. And then what I do, Brian Dable, is I work with the offense. And I feel like I can put this together without having the most loaded, roster. I think of Elijah Arroyo, who I know Colby likes. I like him for the Giants. I think he'd fit in well. He reminds me a little bit of Darren Waller. So I think someone like that, you plug him in. They get the edge rusher first with Russell Wilson. It won't look special, but this is also a team that I would also look at with their depth chart. Don't be surprised if Ashton Jeanty was on their mind. Like, it wouldn't shock me if they were sitting there at 3 and they thought Ashton Jeanty. They're like, let's just get that guy. Because if we have this run game and we already like our defense because we invested there heavily, those two things will win you football games. And look, last season they tried to adjust their whole line. So that'd be like the sleeper pick potentially that I think could be on their mind here is Ashton Jeanty.
Ashton Jeanty, perhaps, man. They're sitting there wishing and regretting sending Saquon away, man. They missed that sort of running back production. But behind that god-awful offensive line, who knows? Colby, expectations for the Giants this year. Are they approaching this NFL draft the right way?
They got some good players, right? I think they're starting to build a foundation on both sides of the football. But to say they're a year away to even start contending, I think this would have to be a perfect draft, and they would have to hit on every single round. So I think they're more so 2 years away, but I think that when it comes to Brian Daboll, is he able to keep his job? Is ultimately progression. Can they at least push the playoffs? If they can make it to the postseason, they can show that they're competitive. Maybe he gets another year, obviously, given where the roster is ultimately at. I'm going to tell you exactly, right? I'm going to tell you exactly what the Giants are going to do in this draft, because everybody's saying, oh, well, they've been linked back to Travis Hunter, and they've been linked back to, Abdul Carter. But now all of a sudden, they are working with Shedeur Sanders last minute, having a private workout with him. So could they go quarterback at number 3? They're getting Shedeur Sanders, but not at number 3. At number 3, they're getting Travis Hunter, and a guy that makes perfect sense for them. A guy who's going to give them help at wide receiver, a guy who's going to give them help at cornerback. 2 of their biggest needs right now. He's going to fulfill both of those for them. Then what they're going to do is they're going to trade back into the first round and get Shedeur Sanders. Now they're getting their quarterback of the future. that makes ownership happy, that buys Brian Daboll and that front office a little bit more time, and you're pairing up Shedeur Sanders with arguably his best player on offense at Colorado. That is exactly what the Giants are going to do, and that buys Brian Daboll a couple more years to get this thing going.
That is a hot take right there. Giants trade back up into the first, grab Shedeur. They have Travis Hunter as well. My God, dude, listen, I just want it to come to fruition. I want it to come to fruition. And Troy is going to be there. Troy is going to be at the NFL draft on behalf of Roundtable Sports, him, Richie, TD, and also Bosarowski as well. I am looking forward to the content that you pump out there, Troy. Don't disappoint me. I'll be a spectator.
The Wi-Fi may disappoint you. I'm going to let you know now.
You have experience, though. You have experience.
From what I understand, actually, I guess you guys get hardwire for free.
Oh, that's great.
So hardwire internet for free at Radio Row. At the Super Bowl, you had to pay some ungodly amount for it. But at the draft, it's free.
Okay. See, now I'm more excited.
Now, Dose.
Panhandlers.
Dose, remember, keep the question specific and to the point. I'll never forget Dose's question at the Senior Bowl. So can you tell me about a time that, you believed in yourself, but you didn't actually believe in yourself and you had somebody else believe in you instead?
That was a detailed question. It was in depth. I was making him really. He had to dig into his recollection there.
Hey, you know what? At least you knew that. Hey, you know what? At least you knew the players' names, right? Like that's important.
That's fantastic. Hey, we love that guy. He's a good player, man. Like he's actually a really good
linebacker.
Yeah, dude, great linebacker, Demetrius Knight Jr. Hey, man, listen. Next year's Senior Bowl, you just wait, man. I'm about to be a polished professional. You have no idea. But you know what? Colby did mention a name. He's high on Will Howard. All right. And Will Howard's name has been really dominating the headlines for the past couple of weeks, likely because, so the draft is right around the corner. But Colby, why do you think Will Howard is going to be that dude? Talk to us.
Well, one of my big things that I like in players as they transition to the NFL, I don't know if I've told you this, guys, before, but I've said it on my shows. I said it on Draftaholics. I've said it on Patriots Global. I've said it on Bleacher Report. Is that I love players that get better on a year-to-year basis, because what that tells me is that you never were stagnant. You never took a step back. You took the coaching and you improved and got better each and every single year. You took the offseason to look at your strengths, weaknesses, where you can get better, and that's Will Howard. I think that Will Howard is also a true leader. He's good against pressure. He has a really, really good deep ball. And I think that he's just a leader overall. I mean, this is a guy that I think can take over as quarterback. I like his football IQ. I think when you think of quarterback, you think of football players, you think, how athletic are they? How many God-given talents were they given? Nobody thinks about that mental side. Nobody thinks about how much of a leader can you be? Can you rally your team together? And I think that's what Will Howard can ultimately be. I believe it was him, too, that outside the NFL Combine, reporters saw some guy in like the middle of the night just throwing darts in the parking lot to some wide receiver. And I believe that quarterback was Will Howard. This guy is literally getting in reps anywhere he can to simply just be better. And what that tells me is that this guy is going to put in the work. I don't care what college you went to. I don't care the competition level. If you show me that you are willing to put in the work at any given moment, that shows me that you can be a quarterback in this league.
He's got a couple things like to just piggyback off what Colby said there. From the quarterback position, a couple of things, like I always think back to the whole Josh Rosen situation, what happened, and Dan talks about it a lot, but like the inside scoop that I was always given on that was like, Josh Rosen, it wasn't about player. It was like, off the field, the work ethic, this guy was not going to put in the time. Like, he was just not going to do that. So I'm not saying that's true, but that's what I've heard from guys that have worked around quarterbacks, and that's what ended up leading to what happened there. But you also think about, to what Colby said, the success that he did have. I mean, Kansas State was a legitimate team every year that he was there. It was one of the best football teams. You didn't want to play that team. So he was able to build up a program. And a lot of these guys, we know they come from random schools, it feels like, all the time. It's not the powerhouses, but they kind of come out of nowhere, and he elevates them. And there was a consistent elevation. Even Brock Purdy did that in college as well. So I think those two things tied together. The work ethic is what I'd have to point to for him, right? You're going to need that guy, because there's all in the field stuff that has to be improved, right? He's not like find a way to kind of dice up people in coverage, right? And kind of manipulate coverage necessarily. He's not a freak athlete, as Colby said, but at the quarterback position, I mean, it may start off as a backup, but that's what it's going to take. It's going to take a guy that has this mindset that he's talking about to stick around.
To have that damn mindset, around, man.
Said Drake May. Colby, you see a little Drake May?
No.
No.
I don't. Drake
No
Mace is own
way,
person.
man. No way. You know what,
I can't
dude?
compare him to the GOAT.
Here's a hot take. Here's a hot take. Tell me it's not a Jerry move, a Jerry Jones move to shock the world and select Omarion Hampton with his pick in the upcoming NFL draft. It's pretty clear that they have been looking for a quality run game, and everyone's always talking about Ashton Jeanty. I think he'll be the first running back to go, rightfully so. But I think Omarion Hampton, like, I think everyone's coming along with the fact that he's going to go in the first round. I think that he might go within the top 15 picks. That's how much hype I have around this guy, and I think Jerry Jones is going to do it. It's just a Jerry Jones move, if you were to ask me. Troy, is there anything that entices you about that statement?
I'm weird on that one because I think it makes sense. And I think if you're Dallas and you want to ensure you get him, take him. Don't wait. You're not going to get him later. But I also feel like with Dallas, as much as they could use a running back, that they're not going to take him here. I think he's going to slide a little bit. And I just feel like Dallas is like, yeah, we need a running back. But remember, we took Chris Brooks. Right? Not Chris Brooks. I'm sorry. Yeah. They drafted the smaller dude, the smaller running back that was like related to the front office. Like, I don't think that I don't think they're going to take a huge swing on a running back. I think they're going to look at it like, yo, there's guys here. Let's get someone with pop on day 2. But day 1, I could see them. Look, they draft well. We got to give credit to them. They kind of let guys fall in their lap. So I think trying to plug a team with the player is not going to work as much. I think someone's going to fall, or they'll be aggressive and go get somebody. This is one of those teams, right circle, go get aggressive. Like the Cowboys need some juice, need some buzz. I wouldn't hate if they try to go make a trade to go get Jeanty, right? If he gets to 6, like, hey, Raiders, we're making a move. We're getting up here. Do something crazy aggressive, but I think they'll kind of let someone fall in their lap, and I think they're on the table to go anywhere in this draft. Receiver makes sense. If I was guessing right now, I think they'll end up going Matthew Golden, but I think ultimately, like, I don't think they're going to take him here. That's my guess. I don't think they'll take him, but I think he'll go round 1.
So the Cowboys go Matthew Golden?
That'd be my guess. But I think they'll let whatever falls in their lap. I mean, if Will Johnson's there, I think they'll take him. I think it's one of those things. Got you.
So hot take, man. Is Matthew Golden going above Tet?
He shouldn't.
I would bet.
I don't think he should. I think if you're taking Matthew Golden over Tet, you're simply drafting him for nothing he's done, but you're drafting him for the speed that he ran, that 40 time, that 4.2, on top of the potential that he has. He has arguably the best potential in this draft class, but I don't believe that he has the highest floor. Like, he definitely has that boom or bust potential.
Interesting. And so, you know what? Like, when it comes into Omarion Hampton and like actually the Denver Broncos being one of the suitors like for this prospect, it makes sense. Did y'all know that the Denver Broncos have not had a 1,000-yard rusher in like, it's some crazy amount of time. I'm going to ask ChatGPT.
I mean, when's the last time that offense was good?
When was the last time the Broncos had a 1,000-yard rusher? Hold on.
They moved on.
Last time the Broncos had a 1,000-yard rusher, it's been a significant amount of time. 2019 was the last time that they had a 1,000-yard rusher.
Who was that? It had to be like an older veteran running back. Does it say?
Philip Lindsay.
Okay. Oh, dude, I remember Philip Lindsay. That dude.
Philip Lindsay was the last 1,000-yard running back for that team. I think it's pretty much set in stone at this point that they are going for a running back. But anyway, Colby, how high do you see Omarion Hampton going? And side question, will there be 3 running backs that go in the first?
Did you guys see, real quick, did you see the Aaron Rodgers statement on the Pat McAfee show?
Which one?
So this is just coming from Ian Rappaport. Said, on the Pat McAfee show, free agent quarterback Aaron Rodgers says, I'll set it all straight. From the jump, I'm in a different phase of my life. I'm 41 years old. I'm in a serious relationship. I have personal commitments I've made and people in my inner circle battling difficult stuff. To make a commitment to a team is a big thing. So that's like a little cryptic update on the whole Aaron Rodgers situation.
Cryptic update indeed.
Cryptic update.
Cryptic update indeed. Well, folks,
what was the other question? Oh, it was Omarion Hampton, right?
Yeah. It was Omarion Hampton, man.
Oh, dude, Omarion Hampton's locked into the first round. I saw there was a discussion at one point that people were saying, could he go over Jeanty? Now, I never believed in that. I thought that was a little bit funny, but I think Jeanty's going to go so high. I think the league has always been a pass-first league for for years now, but I think we're starting to see it go back to a run-based league, a run-first league, right? You're going to start running the ball to open up the pass, and I think that started to transition. Last season, we saw these running backs start to get a little bit more respected. A lot of teams need these dynamic running backs, especially with younger quarterbacks. Jeanty's going to go so high. I think Omarion Hampton is really a close second to Ashton Jeanty. First prospect I ever fell in love with, during the 2025 draft process. I think he's going to go somewhere in the teens. And I think because both of those running backs are going to go higher than people expect, that's why we're hearing discussions about someone like Travion Henderson being a back end of the first round selection also.
Damn, man. Damn. We shall see. And I'm so excited. This draft is so close. And then we'll finally be able to have conversations of, all right, let's unpack this draft class. How does it transition? And we can start ripping off our actual predictions for the 2025 season, since rosters, for the most part, will be solidified. Oh, my God, I cannot wait. Folks, that's going to have to do it for another edition of Roundtable Sports, Fourth and Forever, your daily NFL podcast, Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. EST. If you enjoyed today's show, please do us a favor, smash that like button. And when you subscribe, turn on bell notifications so you could be a part of our live chat community. And for those of you listening on audio networks, please consider coming on over to YouTube so you can tune in live when you have an opportunity to do so. Colby, what do you got to say to the audience before we let them go?
Nothing like patio, man. Nothing like that patio.
Patio, dude.
Hey, man, appreciate you guys for tuning into Third and Sometimes. It was a great episode today. I feel like the dynamic was really good. I think we got through a lot of really good topics. Make sure you guys check out me and Dose. Me and Dose will be on Bleacher Report today from 4 to 7. Big first-round mock draft there going on. It's going to be a big thing. I know we got some other creators. I believe Richie and TD are also involved with that. So if you guys want to see some of your favorite creators, make sure to tune on over into Bleacher Report. But, yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow.
What you got, Troy?
This is one thing. This has been stuck with me. The Timberwolf talk was crazy. I mean, no, I'm just listening. And you're like, I think I take a Timberwolf. I think TD may have said that. I'm thinking myself. I'm listening to that. Like, I'm like, okay, how big of an nail can we really go here? So I'm thinking like porcupine level, maybe, right? Like one of those type of deals. Like a Timberwolf, no shot. So I'm just laying that out there. Like I feel like y'all are in a whole nother class of what you think you'd be able to handle in those situations. But yeah, I just thought I'd throw that in there, man. It was great to be on the show. Appreciate you having me.
Great to be on the show, man.
Great to be on the show.
Oh, man. Listen, we appreciate your service here, Troy. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in to another edition, Fourth and Forever, or as Colby says, Third and Sometimes, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Legal reasons.